What is up, baseball fans? Welcome back to Whaddya Shea, the exclusive channel for all things New York Mets. And the gang's all here, but unfortunately, it's not the good news that we were expecting. It's still kind of good news. I think now that everything's kind of resonated with us, it's turned into good news. But let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way. Mage, Entertainer, I'd love to hear your thoughts on just this overall contract. Trevor Bauer is going to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers over the New York Mets here on a 3-year, $102 million deal, most of it front-loaded. $40 million is the first year with an opt-out, $45 the second with another opt-out, and then a significantly dip in his salary in that third year if he decides to stay. So let's just start there. What are your thoughts in just the contract as a whole and him going to the Dodgers?
Well, for me, we talked about this last night, after we finished the Clapback Sports podcast, and I was talking to a couple other people privately. I didn't think he was worth the money that he's getting. There was no way, in my opinion, that he should be getting more money than Jacob deGrom. He won a Cy Young in a shortened season where he went 5-4, great ERA, etc. But there's no way that he is worth that type of money. Honestly, I think that this is kind of blessing in disguise for the Mets. I know as Mets fans, we came in, we were excited. Uncle Stevie's here. He's going to rescue us. He's going to save the day from the Wilpons. And, our expectations were a little high just because it's our first time kind of being in this situation in a long time. I know Yankees fans were kind of used to it back in the 90s and all. But, I think that the Mets, this is kind of a blessing here. At best, he was a $20 million pitcher. At most, he should have gotten 25. This is ridiculous, the numbers that are being thrown around. Entertainer?
Yeah. First off, thank you to everybody for popping in, man. We all appreciate it. As far as this goes, like you said, I'm super excited because for the first time in forever, Uncle Stevie comes in and we're finally the big market team that we expect to be. It's something that we have not been in 10, 15 years, really since the Ponzi scheme in like 2009. And, and we want them to act like it, and they have. I don't want to discount what we've done so far this offseason. We brought in James McCann, really good catcher that I think people are overlooking. I thought he was a good step up. Obviously, the Lindor is the big piece. Also bring in Carrasco. We beefed up the bullpen a little bit. So there's been some good moves this offseason. But then you see a guy like Trevor Bauer's out there, who's the best arm on the open market. Last year's Cy Young Award winner, even though maybe we contend that maybe deGrom should have won 3 straight. But regardless, had a great year. He pitched to a 170 ERA. Granted, it was only 11 starts. It's a third of a season. But you see the big fish out there, and you hear that the Mets have an offer. You hear that they're interested. And I forgot who it was, the guy on Twitter, whoever reported it. He said it was a done deal. And I get excited.
Nightingale.
Yeah, Nightingale. And I get excited as a Mets fan because I'm thinking to myself, because there's no salary cap in baseball. So, yeah. I'm going to go over my thoughts on the contract after I had time to let it sink in. But you're saying to yourself, my God, look at this staff. If we had Bauer, you're going to have deGrom, you're going to have Carrasco, you're going to have Bauer, Syndergaard when he comes back, and of course Stroman. So you're going to all those guys potentially could be a number 1 starter in certain rotations. So I'm saying to myself, we're going to have the best rotation in baseball. But when push comes to shove, and when you see the contract that the Dodgers end up paying this guy, and I understand that the Dodgers, they're a win-now team, right? This is a team that's established. This is a team that's all in. But they gave this guy essentially a 2-year deal for $85 million because he has an opt-out after the 3rd year, and he's more than likely going to be opting out because I would imagine he's only got about $15, $17 million left on that deal after that, even though he'll be about 31, 32 years old. But they gave him $85 million for 2 years. To put that in perspective, Jacob deGrom on average makes about $28 million a year. That's insane. This is a guy where in 2018 he was terrific. 2018, 12-6, 2.2 ERA in the American League. Fantastic. Last year, great. But outside of that, you're talking about a guy that's basically been Steven Matz for the entirety of his career. So I think he's a really good pitcher. I would have been excited if we got him. But in the end, I understand why the Mets were not willing to meet those contract demands. And I think Met fans have to be realistic with that. It's an outrageous contract. And now, as Mets fans, we got to look around, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, but there's other ways that we could try to shore up some holes on this roster.
Yeah, so Alex pointed something out. He's talking about a few trade scenarios. We'll get into that in a second. My thoughts on the contract, and we talked on Clapback Sports, me and Mage together, when this broke, I was aboard with the idea of $30 million, $35. I wasn't comfortable with it, but I understood he's the top pitcher on the market. But to justify that this guy's almost double what Jacob deGrom is worth, and I'll fill it in for you, entertainer. You don't have to say he would have won 3. He should have won 3. He really should have won 3. He's the best pitcher in baseball. He's making almost $25 to $28 million a year, and this guy is going to get 20 more than him over one All-Star appearance, and he parlayed a very good half season, not even half season, 60 games to this mega deal. And we talked about this off air. Good for him. Good for his agent. Good for his family. I mean, that's some big time money. You know, I'm not going to knock him for that, but I see the chat talking about it a lot. And I think the most encouraging thing for me is that we tried. Yeah. We're in these conversations. And I talked to Mage about this before. It's not that I wanted Bauer, nor did we need Bauer, but it's a precedent. The Mets were trying to become the Dodgers. Cohen has said it a million times, but you don't just become the Dodgers by not being aggressive in these deals. They had to be aggressive and ask the questions and do their due diligence on all these guys. Real Muto, they end up with McCann. Springer, maybe we end up with Bradley. Bauer, maybe we go somewhere else. But the point is you got to get in those conversations and at least be a part of it, be at that table if you really want to change this organization around. Because, I mean, for the longest time, we haven't even had a seat at the table. I mean, other than when we signed Beltran, Delgado, and all these guys in the offseason, we weren't that active. I mean, let's not talk about it today.
Let me stop you here for a second because I want to ask this, pose this question to both of you. So we were in over $100 million for Bauer. We were in over $100 million for Springer. And I believe we made an offer to Real Muto that was over $100 million as well. I mean, does this still say something about the Mets? Is there still a stigma or stink around the Mets where these players just don't want to come here when we're offering comparative contracts? Springer, he would have been closer to home, wanted to play closer to home. He lives in Connecticut, went up north. Now, granted, they'll be in Buffalo this year, but still, he chose the other side of the border. I don't blame Bauer. I get Bauer kind of going back to L.A. That's where he's from, played ball at UCLA, so I get that. And then Real Muto going back to Philly. But I guess the question is, does a stigma still exist around the Mets?
I'm honestly gonna say no. I really believe no to that. I think that the Mets are. I think they're going to be an attractive destination, especially after this year. I think the Mets are going to be very competitive this year. I'm not going to say they're definitively going to win the National League East. I expect us to make at least a wild card appearance, and I think free agents next year are going to look at this team and they're going to say, "Yeah, I'm that missing link to put this team into a World Series discussion." And I expect the Mets to be aggressive, and when you're aggressive, you're going to land somebody. You just are. The market this year was kind of slim. I mean, when you look at the free agency market this year, outside of Trevor Bauer, there wasn't a lot of prominent names in terms of starting pitchers. And Bauer's probably not even a top 10 starting pitcher in baseball, but he was the biggest fish out there. And, you know, again, I don't want to discount who we got. And granted, it was a trade. He didn't, you know, volunteer to come here, but we got Lindor. So, and, you know, as much as McCann is not on the same level, obviously, you know, as what's his name again? The catcher that ended up going back to Philadelphia.
Real Muto.
He's not on the same level, but Real Muto got like a $25 million deal for 5 years. The guy is 30 or 29 or 30. We've seen as Met fans what happened to Piazza when he turned 30, 31. So that's a risky deal in itself. I think Steve is doing what he said he was going to do. You know, we thought as Met fans, you know, we got the $14 billion owner. He's going to come in here and we're going to be in a spending spree. And we've spent a lot more than we have in the past, don't get me wrong. But he said when he took the job, this is about sustained success. This is about building a consistent winner over a 3 to 5 year period. We're not going to spend like drunken sailors. And I think that's what he's done. He hasn't gone out there and spent absurd amount of money on players, which is exactly what the Mets would have done had they signed Bauer.
Well, Tino, to piggyback off of that, let me ask you this then, right? Because the entertainer brings up a good point. Springer signed a 6-year deal. He's 32 years old. That deal he would have been 38 by the time he's done with that deal. Real Muto. I know that we're all Giants fans here, but we see something Dave Gettleman doing, 2-3-year deals, and that seems to be what the Mets are offering. Matt D also brought up the fact that, and he said it's worth noting that they still have $40 million to spend this offseason, and he brought up the idea of contracts. We have to sign Lindor, and we're going to have to sign
Syndergaard, potentially.
Syndergaard.
Yeah, well, we have decisions on Stroman as well. We have a decision on Stroman as well. He's already kind of on that 1 year deal. He's teetering. He has 18 in the 1 year. He's getting $18 million. The Mets aren't done. and we talked about this on Twitter today. We kind of went on a little bit of a rant there, but you can do a lot with $40 million in a year. A lot. It's a significant amount of money. And we've talked about the guys like Jackie Bradley. We're now in conversations with every other top free agent out there because we have the money to spend. We're 30 under the cap still. So there's a lot of room to go with this. But to circle back to, do the Mets still have the stink on them? I don't. And I think adding Lindor was that breath of fresh air. I really do. I think a player like that, an MVP caliber player, adding him, plus, and again, we always talk about Lindor. Carrasco is a huge pickup. He slides into the 2 spot in this rotation. We were talking about how the rotation looks before we came on air. He's the 2. I trust him more than Stroman, and we don't know what we're getting out of Syndergaard yet. It's like Carrasco I can believe in. I know the guy's a baller. He's got nasty stuff, and he's steady. He's consistent. He's about as consistent as it gets, honestly, in the game. And so, to tie it all back to Bauer real quick, I ultimately just believe it came down to New York and LA because he's a big market guy. He was thinking bigger picture outside of baseball. He always has. He wants his media company. He wants to run the ship, and I get that. But my feeling as a fan is, from his perspective, I wouldn't want to pitch under Jacob deGrom. That's the guy I was competing for a Cy Young with the last couple of years. I mean, in New York, if he underperforms, if he comes back to a 4 ERA, which he's pitched at most of his career other than 2 seasons, you're not matching what deGrom is putting up. So, I mean, that's constant heat. And I don't know if he could stand it. The guy threw a ball over center field. I don't know if he's got that juice in him to stand the New York media. I doubt LA is going to be much better. But if I'm deGrom, if I'm Bauer, I would have not want to pitch under deGrom. And now he's in a situation where, as loaded as that pitching staff is in LA, Price is starting to decrease in his game. Kershaw starting to decline in his game. Buehler is peaking, but he can easily be the best arm in that rotation. I don't think he ever would have been the best arm in this Mets rotation. So for him, I think, honestly, it was a smarter career choice. And to what Maish said, it's a blessing in disguise that the Mets didn't pay him this money, because we can now allocate that to a million other things. We have holes in center field. We don't know if the DH is going to exist. I know there's questions on here about that. We don't know what they're going to do with Dom yet. I mean, Dom might play left. If we add Bradley as Nimmo out of the lineup, the rules haven't even been set. The MLBPA and MLB are going at each other. So we have no idea if it's a shortened season, if there's expanded playoffs, if there's a DH. But I do see, Chris, that the Mets are a playoff team. It's just not going to be easy in our division. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I see us as a top 2 team in this division, but I'm not ready to crown us over the Braves yet.
I agree with you. I'll believe it when I see it with the Braves. That team always competes. They're always really good. They get the most out of their talent. I wouldn't label us the favorites yet. They got to prove it to me. But I definitely think we're headed in the right direction. And what I could confidently say is, under new ownership, I really believe that this is not going to be the Mets that I saw growing up. It's not going to be a team that gives you 2 good years and then you wait another 10 to get competitive again. I think this team is going to be fairly competitive year in and year out. And as Mets fans, that's all we ask for. We want a chance to go to the dance every year. And I honestly believe going forward with this ownership, Steve Cohen's going to put us in that position to be able to do that. And I think that we will get big fish in the future. It's just a matter of finding the right fit.
So for you guys, let's tie this all together now with potential trades, even the free agents out there. Let's just start with where are we at with this team? What are the holes left? There are some glaring holes, but everyone kind of has a preference on what you think we need to address first. So we can start with Maish. Maish, where are you at on our team needs? What do we need to do with the money that we have left?
Well, we talked about this a little bit before we went live. I think that the Mets should still be in play for Jackie Bradley Jr. I think sure enough that defense in the outfield is going to be a major hole for them still. We don't know what's going to happen with free agency. Ideally, we would love to bring back Conforto. I know you had mentioned about Nimmo. The Mets seem to be obsessed with wanting to play him in center field. But I think Jackie Bradley Jr., who actually had a really good year last year, makes sense for this team. I know that you have a couple guys. But from this pitching staff, I think I'm okay with where we are right now. Maybe add one more bullpen on. Outside of that, I think we're okay, though, because we're going to get Noah Syndergaard back at some point. Lucchesi will end up moving to the bullpen. There'll be some bullpen depth. maybe even a guy like Paxton. I know that other people have said that before, and he's kind of shown that he can't really handle New York. But I don't know. I still think that he might be probably a good option out there, though. But as far as I go, let's sign Lindor to a long-term deal. Let's get Jackie Bradley Jr., and I think we'll be okay. I think this team is better off than it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, Jackie Bradley Jr. is the obvious biggest name that you've heard about because that's our biggest hole right now is center field defense. And a lot of Met fans feel like, Nimmo's obviously a liability out there. He's kind of, what my friend actually today was texting him. He said he reminds me of like a poor man's Mike Cameron. He's not super excited about potentially bringing him in. But listen, man, we definitely need a glove in center field. So I'm not going to fault the Mets if they go out there and sign a guy like Jackie Bradley Jr. Of course, we'll evaluate it based on the contract that he might get. I'm kind of with Mage, obviously. I think we could still try to beef up the bullpen a little bit, but I think that's probably something that we probably target more so in season, maybe at the trade deadline. As far as starting pitchers that are out there, people bring up Odorizzi, but I've seen that the Mets may be out on him. We'll see what happens with that. I think at this point, you look at the Mets rotation, and yeah, Bauer would have been a really nice luxury. I think we got a good rotation. I don't think that's a weakness of ours. Like DeGrom, Carrasco, Stroman, Peterson, and Lucchesi, and you got Syndergaard coming back. So I'm not really worried about the rotation. I don't think that's really where we should be, spending our limited resources at this point in time. Maybe get a third baseman. We were talking about potential trades. Maybe you bring in a guy like Chris Bryant, where the Cubs are potentially looking to get rid of him. That's been rumored before. Maybe the Mets are willing to take on that contract. He'd help at third base. That's something that interests me. Potentially trading for a guy like Chris Bryant from the Cubs. And yeah, like you said, Marcell Ozuna is interesting if the DH is allowed in the National League. And there's some cheap options, but nobody that's going to really get you excited in the outfield outside of that.
Yeah, so you touched on Ozuna. I think my bottom line on Ozuna, he's going to be the highest paid outfielder that's left out there at this point. It's more for the fact that the Braves, that's their top target. They're our top target in the division, in my opinion. I would love to just take one of their weapons away from them and try to add them to the dark side here in New York. Other than that, I mean, we talked about Odorizzi. I think you guys are right. I'm fine with this pitching staff. I think the Mets, as much as they wanted to add Bauer, we already addressed that. I don't think it was because they weren't comfortable with the guys they had. They're just looking to beef it up as much as possible. I mean, if you could get the best pitching staff in the league, why not try to go out and get it? I mean, they had the assets and the money to do it. For me, it's third base. I think moving Jeff McNeil to his natural position in second is great. It's going to complete this team on the infield side of the ball. On the shortstop to second base side of the infield a lot. I think him and Lindor are going to go great together, but JD has a lot to prove at third. And we have a platoon of left fielders that I love. Dom. He fielded a lot better in left field last year, but the fact of the matter is he still split time. He still saw an even split at first base and left field. So the DH helps us because they don't have to middleman that. And I think Dom is best suited on the field and in the everyday lineup, but truthfully, he's the odd man out. As shitty as it is, and I think it leads me to believe if we were to do a trade here, if we were going to try to trade with the Reds and get Suarez or try to get Chris Bryant or whatever we want to do, he's got to be a guy that they talk about. As unfortunate as it is, I just see it if the NL stays with the rules that they are. If you ask the Mets, I think they're going to give up Dom before Pete. That's where I am. I mean, JD doesn't really have a lot of value. I think Dom has a shit ton of value. And as much as I hate to say it, I think if you're trying to work out a deal with Bryant, he might have to go. I mean, that's the realization I came to.
I was thinking about this the other day, too, and you talk about the Mets possibly still being in that trade market. But does it seem like the Mets are kind of gathering trade pieces with the last couple moves that they made with Mats, et cetera? It seems like to me they're building up their farm a little bit, trying to replenish it. And the one idea that I got from that is that they're loading up for another possible trade.
They also freed up money by doing the Mats deal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I just feel like that they've been adding some bullpen arms as well, which are always going to be valuable in some trades. So to Tino's point, I could see them possibly making another move like Chris Bryant to shore up third base.
Yeah, so, I'm kind of in no man's land with us adding those prospects because I'm trying to take what Sandy's saying and what Steve Cohen is saying, at word to mouth. They've said that they're trying to build up the farm system. That's kind of what they came out and said. And then they said that our farm system is not where it needed to be. But then they started trading assets and making trades and doing certain things. and they needed to continue to replenish despite already saying that from the beginning. So it's like, I think they're accumulating those potential, lower valued assets, especially like in that Blue Jays deal. They got 3 right-handed pitchers. It didn't really make much sense. There wasn't much diversity to the deal, but at the same time, I think they might just be doing it to again bolster that farm system. I'm not going to read too much into it. I think if they made that deal with the Cubs, it's still going to involve Alvarez, that catching prospect. I don't think anything else is going to really matter. It's got to focus around Alvarez, which it doesn't seem like the Mets want to budge on right now. And then it'd have to be a big league talent. And Dom has no money on his contract. I think this would be his last year before he has to actually negotiate to a big league contract. So he's under team control, or not under team control, but the ball's in the Cubs' court on what they want to do with him. I don't know. I
would hate to trade Dom Smith.
I would too.
I love Dom Smith. So
I want to believe that JD Davis would be enough in a deal, but I don't see it.
Well, you're absolutely right. Dom Smith's going to get you a lot more.
Maybe a guy like Nimmo, but then again, like, I feel like maybe the Mets are depreciating Nimmo's value at this point. I mean, a lot of people view him differently. He's a young guy. A lot of people like him. A lot of people don't. And I don't know if it's the defense, the offense. He's a good leadoff hitter. It's very wishy-washy with him. So I can't tell where his value lies on this team anymore. But I think if one thing is steady and like you showed a piece to a team, you show what Dom Smith did last year. He's top 15 in average RBIs and on-base percentage or OPS. I mean, just sell him at his high. I think he can get higher, but I mean, what are you going to do? You got a guy in Pete at first base. If the DH doesn't come, we're in no man's land. We're where we were 2 years ago when Pete won Rookie of the Year. So I want Chris Bryant. I'm trying to like make it real. I just don't see any other way it could happen without giving Alvarez and a big league talent that is worth a shit. Because I view Chris Bryant very high. I don't know about you guys. Chris Bryant's a pretty big.
He's a former MVP. I mean, he's fallen off a little bit, as of late, but he would definitely, obviously, help us out at the hot corner. I mean, that's a huge liability there with JD Davis's defense, and we're talking about shoring up the defense for this team, and that's one thing that I don't think the Mets have gotten enough credit for this year by some fans. McCann is definitely a huge improvement there. Obviously, Lindor at the shortstop spot, and and then if you bring in a guy like Bryant, that would definitely go a long way. So, but last year obviously was very disappointing. But maybe you're buying low, kind of like what you're talking about. Maybe you're getting him low. He's still relatively young. He's only going to be 29 next year.
So I think a lot of people, especially in the chat, they kind of are iffy on whether or not we'll actually get these deals done. We have Lindor to add an extension to, Conforto to add an extension to, and if we added Bryant, we'd also have to extend him. I do think, again, we roll back to saving $40 million. We actually do have some breathing room if we want to do this in decisions moving forward. I think we're going to get both Conforto and Lindor done, especially with the money we saved. But let's just generalize this. They're going to get Lindor done. I think that's for sure. What are your guys' thoughts on Michael Conforto as a player? Let's just get that out there. Do you believe he's worth, the money they'll probably have to throw on him to fully extend him?
I'll let you start, Mish.
Yeah, for me, I think that Conforto is a pretty complete player. I mean, the velocity that comes off the bat when he hits, I mean, it's crazy because if he probably played anywhere else aside from Shea, his home run numbers would probably be up, wouldn't they? So it's just an exit velocity. He makes such strong contact with the ball too, and he's such a good defender. The problem has been with Conforto is his ability to stay healthy over the years. But yeah, I think that Conforto is definitely worth it. I would bring him back. So I agree with you. I would prioritize probably Conforto and Lindor. And then the question is, what do you do on this pitching staff? Stroman's going to be up. I don't think Stroman's worth, I don't know, any more than probably $15 million a year. Who knows what the market will dictate for him, though. He might end up getting more. And then they're going to have a decision to make on Syndergaard. And Syndergaard, man, I love that kid. Yeah, he's New York all the way. I remember a few years back he had in his bio, why does SNY keep trying to trade me? So
yeah. Well, that's when he was trying to get traded to the Yankees, I think. Everyone kept linking him to the Yankees. He's like, dude, I'm not being traded to the Yankees. Like, let it go.
I love Thor. So, I mean, if we got to bring somebody back, we got to bring Thor back, even if he ends up being a third or, even a fourth on this pitching staff. So,
yeah, it's interesting.
I'm a big fan of Conforto. I always have been. The one thing I'll say about Conforto that I guess worries me a little bit he's always been very streaky. Very streaky. And last year he was great, obviously in a limited sample size. Kind of like what we're talking with Bauer. Same thing with Conforto. He batted 322. He had a 927 OPS, 9 home runs, 31 RBIs, 12 doubles in 54 games. But you go back and look at the course of his career, 257, 243, 279. So he's been streaky. But when he's at his best, he's almost as good as anybody. I mean, the guy's got a great swing. He's the type of player that when he's at his best could carry a baseball team. I've always been a big fan of Conforto. And hopefully, we'll see. I guess we'll get to evaluate it this year and see if he's turned the corner. It certainly looked that way, in the 54-game sample size that we saw him this year. But if we get to see him, bat 280, hit 30 home runs, I'm all aboard it. Extend Conforto, keep him here. I think he's one of our best all-around players on the team. I'm a big fan of Conforto.
Yeah, I want to see him in Mets jersey for the rest of his career. Truthfully, I mean, unbiasedly, homegrown talent with the Mets. He's been here forever. I've been attached to him since that World Series run. He went yard twice against the Dodgers. That was electric. And, as much as he's been streaky, I will say last year he put together his best season because I just think he's seeing the ball better than he ever has in his career. I think he struggled with lefties for a really long time being a left-handed hitter, and now it doesn't matter. Honestly, I wonder how much Jeff McNeil has an influence on a lot of these hitters. Because I noticed that last year. Jeff McNeil's on another planet when it comes to hitting, and he just kind of plays pepper with it. And that's what they were doing, especially the lefties on this team. Look at the success they had. Dom, Conforto, all lefties. Jeff was the same way. I mean, he's a freak at the plate when it comes to hitting the ball and, his hand-eye. So I think he has a little bit to do with that. I mean, like a kind of a player coach, I guess, because they were ripping the shit out of the ball. They were playing better than they ever have and seeing the ball better than they ever have. So I think that's a part to do with it. But you are right. He has been streaky. I did love seeing that he put together the, his best season yet. A lot of people think here that maybe Noah would take the 1-year deal to prove himself. He's actually not getting paid that much yet. He's still under an arbitration deal. I think he's under 10. He's probably at like $9-8 million. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Noah. I think what's most interesting to me is the injury. I mean, if he overdoes it, if they bring him back too soon and he aggravates it in any way, he's in a contract year. As much as he's been a Met, what do you do? I mean, we have the money to support it. What is he going to look for? He's kind of taken these player-friendly deals and avoided arbitration the last couple of years because of his injuries. Does he do it again? I don't know. I mean, it is a business. You see money being thrown around right now. If you can double that, get 13 to 15. I mean, if I'm Noah Syndergaard, I don't blame him if he does. But it's definitely a prove-it year this year, in my opinion, despite him coming back from an injury. It's got to be a prove-it year this year.
It's kind of like the same thing. We're all Giants fans. It's kind of the same thing with Saquon Barkley. Like, I feel like Syndergaard and Barkley are in the same boat, even though obviously Barkley's a shorter lifespan, but football's a shorter lifespan in general in terms of, especially the running back position. But I feel like they're in the same spot. Like Syndergaard, he has to prove he could stay healthy. He has to prove he could pitch like he did back in 2015, 2016 when we saw him at the top of his game. And, if he could prove that, you have to do. I mean, the guy's got too much potential. I mean, the guy is a freak when he's at his best. So he's got to prove he can stay healthy. But if he does, I think you have to. And that's the other thing about I guess the silver lining about missing out on a guy like Bauer, even though we're all bummed out about it because we're thinking World Series this year. And that doesn't mean our World Series hopes are over. We don't know what this team's going to look like come October if we get there. There's a trade deadline. There's everything else. But not tying up money to a guy like Bauer is going to give you the freedom to potentially extend some of these players come next year if they prove that they're worthy of it.
So let me ask you guys a quick question about Noah. One, I want to keep him. I think that him and DeGrom should just retire together. They should retire as Mets. But Noah Syndergaard, we would probably agree, is a power pitcher, correct?
Big time.
So as he gets a little bit older, right, if we do happen to sign him to a longer-term deal, with the injuries, can he change his pitching style? Can he add some more pitches to his arsenal, or is he going to be reliant on that power pitching style? Because if so, a long-term deal may not do him very good with the Mets. Those power pitches don't last very long past a certain age.
Yeah. No, I think you hit it on the head. I think we've already seen it in his career, kind of how, it has the wear and tear. I think we saw all the signs and we're worried about that exact thing happening, and it kind of came to fruition. But I will say this about power pitchers. We talk about how it could be negative if we don't have a DH. But if we don't have a DH, all our pitchers are going to rake again. We got Noah at the plate. We got Jake at the plate. I mean, sign me up for that. It's honestly free entertainment. I'll never forget. I watched an afternoon game. I believe it was against the Reds, and Noah pitched a 2-0 shutout with a complete game shutout at that. With a home run. He had a solo home run in it, and he like pretty much tipped himself off. So like, you know, it's always hit and miss with him. You never know kind of which one you're going to get. He's a bit of a mixed bag, but he can dominate, and he's definitely a big game pitcher, which is something I think we talk about a lot. We kind of want gamers. I mean, you want guys on the team that are going to show up when you need them the most. And again, we've seen him in the postseason. The year after we made it to the World Series, he pitched that playoff game against the Giants. He was an absolute stud in that game. Came down to the 9th, and in true fashion, Juris Familia blew it. And I'm glad we actually bring him up because we talk about saving money, and that's $18 million off the books if we get rid of Juris next year, which I think is a must on this team. He's getting too much.
He sucks.
He's getting too much. he's getting way too much.
I'll break it down easy for you. He sucks. No, Syndergaard, and don't forget about the World Series. One of my favorite moments in Met history is when he threw at the guy's head. That was awesome. But I'm a big Syndergaard fan, and I want him to be here long term. But I do think it's fair to question it. I can't conclusively say right now, because of what Mays brought up. It's a good point. He's got to learn to become more of a pitcher. He's kind of like DeGrom. DeGrom's a pitcher. Not to say Syndergaard is not. One thing I'll say about Syndergaard, when he's healthy, he's not just a flamethrower. He does have secondary pitches. He did develop that rather quickly, but he's got to become more of a pitcher. He's got to learn how to pitch better. And I think that's another thing he's got to prove this year.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing what Carrasco and Marcus Stroman can do. I think those are the two guys, and then even Noah. I mean, the thing with Carrasco, he's steady Eddie, comeback player of the year, stand-up guy, switching over leagues, not only divisions, leagues, and just kind of changing the whole landscape isn't always the easiest. I think people kind of oversee that whole storyline. And you want to know another thing, and I wanted to talk about this with our pitching staff. If you remember last season, if we do end up with a COVID-shortened season, pitchers struggled to stay healthy last year. The Mets especially struggled. We had to bring Lugo from the 7th to the 9th to the starting rotation. I mean, they were deteriorating last season. So there's a lot of unexpectedness, and I think that's why the Mets are still kind of being as aggressive as they are with pitchers, because you kind of never have enough. I mean, based on last year, you really could never have enough. And we need a bridge until Noah's back. Say Lucchesi goes down, I couldn't even tell you who the next guy up is yet. Probably Rob Gesellman, maybe. I don't want to bring Lugo in, but realistically, I mean, because we got rid of Mats, and so, we're in that spot. And I think the Mets aren't oblivious to that. It's one injury away. We don't have Noah yet. You got to continue to build on it, because it's important to make sure Jake stays on rhythm every 5th day and we keep all these guys on track. And it helps when you don't got to. I mean, look, the Corey Oswalds of the world are great, but we have no confidence in that on our 5th day. So I think they're trying to establish a rotation that, the fans, when we go watch every 5th day, we can believe in, whether it's Jake, Carrasco, Stroman, or Peterson or Lucchesi. But we're definitely not done yet. We're not done yet. And I think you can see that we have a lot of pitchers with something to prove. And with that being that, we also have a lot of work to do, because there's a lot of question marks. I mean, It's a lot of hypotheticals right now with us. Other than Jake, who can we say is definitely, let's write it in, we're going to get this from this guy, this is his ERA, this is his win-loss. I mean, poor fucking Jake, though. Well, I don't know what his win-loss is going to be. He might have
Jake could throw to a 1.5 ERA and he could lose 15 games.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the one thing we're certain about.
Yeah. The ERA will be good.
The tides are turning, boys. The tides are turning. So
the offense is getting better. So
the one pitcher that I'm excited to see this year is another homegrown talent. We drafted him. We've been talking about him as our next big prospect to come up. I want to see what Peterson does this year as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been waiting for him. He's been our big pitching prospect in the farm system for quite some time. I really want to see what he does. And Matt D brought up in terms of possibly third base, the other big prospect that we have is Ronnie Mauricio. Is he somebody that can possibly come up and fill that third place position? as opposed to trading for a guy like Chris Bryant. I don't know, but he's a hell of a prospect. I certainly want to see what he has. I know it's going to be a little bit of a different story with spring training and all this year, but
we talked about this on the first stream we all did together, and we talked about how Luis Guillorme is still on this team, and it's not a sexy name, but I do think if JD struggled at third to the extent where we're all concerned at right now, the Mets won't hesitate to put Guillorme at second and move Jeff back to third base. I think that's the immediate solution, and maybe you turn JD into that platoon guy off the bench. He rotates in left when you decide to give Pete a rest day or Dom a rest day, and so on and so forth with that. But I think with Maruccio, the Mets tend to be tentative with their prospects. With Pete, we kind of knew how strong and powerful Pete could be, and they were still tentative.
Part of me thinks, though, that's going to change now, because part of me thinks a major reason why the Mets were tentative with their prospects in the past was for money reasons, because they would wait to bring them up so they wouldn't have to give them – they would take another year for that until they were able to keep them under team control another year because they didn't rush them up. I don't think this new owner and this new regime is going to worry about that. I think when they feel like it's appropriate to bring in a guy up that will help the baseball team, I think they're going to go ahead and do that. I saw Nick in the chat ask me if I got a Giants mug. No, it's the Beatles, by the way. But no, I don't think that they're. I don't think that they're going to be shy to pull the gun and bring up prospects when they feel like it'll help the team. Unlike the prior regime, because I think the Wilpons were always thinking about money and being cheap and things like that. I don't think that'll happen now.
But the Mets aren't the only one. Let me tell you, that is the biggest sham in baseball, the ability to manipulate contracts like that. That's why you have players that are coming up that are 27, 28, or they're hitting free agency by the time they're 29, 30 years old. In football, that's unheard of. By baseball standards, with all the years of arbitration that they had and everything else, I mean, it's ridiculous. A lot of players end up getting screwed.
Well, I want to shout out Gabriel right here because this is something we talked about off air. Bauer versus DeGrom in October will be a fun game to watch. If you ask the Los Angeles Dodgers, a team they don't want to face in the playoffs, I promise you the New York Mets are at the top of that list. There's too much bad blood, too much history. We got the ass in the jackpot. We got Utley. We got Ruben Tejada. People don't forget. We got the World Series run. They don't want to see this. If Noah's back, if he's got their number, he knows how to play them. Jake owns them. So if we see LA, and we talked about this, I'm not scared of the Dodgers. They're the same team they always are, in my opinion. Big money, nice tools. They're going to get there. They'll probably even host a damn thing. But I'm not scared.
We knocked them off in 06 also. We knocked them off in 06. We have a pretty, at least in recent history, not if you go back to the 80s, but in recent history, we have a pretty good history against the Dodgers in the playoffs. So they got a great team, no doubt about it. They're going to be the favorites to come out. They're going to be the favorites to win the World Series. But they don't scare me. I mean, let's just get in and let's see what happens. and I don't think this team's complete yet. I want to continue to say that. Not just this offseason. I know damn well if the Mets at the deadline, much like they did the year with Cespedes, everybody forgets. That's what got us. That's what got us to where we got, was all the good moves that we made at the trade deadline. Let's just get to the trade deadline. Let's be in contention, and let's make some moves to put us over the top. That right now, baseball to me, I'm thinking about the first half. Give me a good first half. Get me to that trade deadline, and then Uncle Stevie, let's operate some moves and let's put this team in real World Series contention.
Look, I mean, I'm not going to just be a Mets homer here, but the Dodgers have a pretty scary lineup.
Oh, they're sick.
I mean, especially what they have with the arms, now adding Bauer, although, again, I'm not sold on Bauer. Bauer did what he did in the COVID-shortened season, but, I mean, the Dodgers are a nasty team, though.
But I think what they do with their pitching rotation, they still keep Kershaw at the top because they're not ready to give Dustin May the ball fully yet. They did a lot in the postseason. They do the opener with Kershaw. I don't think that always works. The Yankees tried it too. You can't always do that. The Rays are probably the outlier on that. So they still do that. Buehler, when he's on, he's filthy, but he seems beatable. And again, Bauer, he's okay. He's okay. That's all I'm going to say right now. I'm not going to trash him. He's all right. Again, I think he could be their best pitcher in the rotation, but they don't scare me. Their rotation doesn't scare me. The lineup, you're right. You have Mookie Betts, Cody Bellinger. It's freakish. If they bring back Turner. They're ridiculous.
I
They're
can't stand going up against Turner. Remember him in that 2015 series? Every time he
I
came up,
want
he
him
was
to
getting
come
hit.
back. Whenever someone's like, we need a third baseman, I'm like, well, we had one. We had one, and he's gone.
And Daniel Murphy, too. I want Murphy back, too. Get Murphy back here.
He retired. He actually just
I
retired.
didn't know he retired? Okay.
Yeah, he officially retired, and hey, bring him back out. Bring him out of retirement. I mean, look, we brought back Todd Frazier enough times. We can bring back Daniel Murphy. I think we can make an exception to him. I wanted to talk about some bullpen guys we could add real quick. A lefty arm, and I'd love to hear the chat's opinion on this, that I'm looking out there. He's a little up there in age, but we still need lefty help, is Sean Doolittle. The Mets own him, but he's pretty good whenever he versus anybody else. He's terrible against the Mets, but really good against anyone else. So he's out there. He's a big-time arm. And then Roberto Ozuna. Other than that, it's pretty slim pickings. Ozuna has the off-field issues. He's a big-time arm, young enough that if we did get a deal with him, we could probably get something out of him. But I understand, what he did and what he does isn't, something that you should approve of, or he probably shouldn't even be in the league. But the fact is there are people out there all across the board that are. So we're looking for bullpen help. He's an arm, but Sean Doolittle, especially because we need a lefty arm, would be an interesting sight to see in the Mets blue and orange. I think it would be a familiar face.
I see Josh said that he signed already Doolittle.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Talk to me. Let me know where he went. Well, another one too. How about bring back Justin Wilson? That's also who we talked about off air too.
Yeah, we talked about him off air. He's actually, if you look at the free agent pitchers that are available for the bullpen, he's the one that's actually projected to make the most money. But yeah, I wouldn't mind bringing back Justin Wilson. I thought he was pretty good for us.
The Cincinnati Reds. Interesting move for the Reds. That's what they're saying. Doolittle went to the Reds, I believe. I do like Wilson though. I like Wilson. He was sure and steady as a lefty for us, I thought. I mean, look, he was trying to make, lemonade with non-lemons. He was making it with oranges. It's pretty rough. Being a Mets bullpen pitcher last year, you couldn't pay me to do it, honestly. It was a struggle. I mean, the MLB in general, I think a lot of players, and it's crazy how it's one or the other. You got guys like Bauer who thrived in it, and other guys who just crumbled in it. I mean, you had guys who had really, really bad years and struggled with injuries. And it's two polar opposites. But remembering last year's season, and it's a blur for me, wasn't that entertaining. You had games every other day, teams, sharing stadiums. The Mets had a walk-off in Yankee Stadium last year. Yep. I mean, it was all over the place.
The doubleheader. But
the doubleheader, 7 innings.
And then because of the virus, you had, the Mets missed, a week of baseball. So that throws you off. It was a complete, and it might be that way this year. I don't want to get it twisted. Baseball is going to start in 2 months, and the virus is worse now than it was then in terms of the numbers. So it may still be the same element for the Mets this year. Hopefully that's not the case. I'm trying to go to some games, but we'll see, man. But yeah, you're right. It definitely threw a lot of players off last year, especially. And there's so many players, you think about it. There are so many players that start off poorly. And Mark Teixeira is a player that comes to my mind. It's just the first player that always pops in my head when I think about players that start off really poorly and they take a month, a month and a half to get into the swing of things, and then they start to turn it up. So last year was, it was tough on a lot of players.
I also want to give John Talento, if I'm saying that correctly, some credit here. He said nobody's talking about Trevor Rosenthal.
Yeah. I mean. I don't know. I feel like we're right-handed heavy. We're very right-handed heavy. We just signed Trevor May. People forget about that, by the way. I think a lot of people forget that Trevor May is a very good pitcher. But
Aaron
Loop, he's a lefty. My issue is, and the Trevor Rosenthal is, if we fill up the bullpen with a righty like him, an aged vet, that's fine. I get it. I respect it. It's a smaller move. I'm worried about the back end. That's still something, and we talked about it. We can have Bauer. We can have the pitching rotation we have now. None of it matters if we can't close a game out. And I still think, as Met fans, that's our biggest issue and one of the biggest question marks we have. Who the heck's closing our games? Do we start with Diaz and wait for it to crumble? What do we do? What do we do?
So were the Mets right not to guarantee Brad Hand the closing role then? That's ultimately why he chose not to come here. We wouldn't guarantee him a role as a closer.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you that's our biggest question mark. And the funny thing is in 2 years ago, whatever it was, 2018, I think, or 20, whatever, not last regular season, regular season before that. The part of the team that we were most assured of was the bullpen. We all thought the bullpen was going to be great, and everything else was question marks. Even the lineup was a question mark. Nobody knew Pete was going to do what he did. And the bullpen was a huge letdown. And last year was kind of the same thing. With bringing in Betances, he sucked. And until the Mets get some kind of consistency out of that bullpen.
We still have Betances, by the way, who sucks. So we have Familia, who sucks. Betances, who sucks. And I'll tell you this one. Ready? Diaz? He sucks. Okay.
I'll tell you what. Diaz is an enigma to me because when you watch him pitch, you're like, holy hell, this guy's got great stuff. But he'll make that one mistake.
He had a hell of a season before the Mets traded for him.
Yeah, he was the best relief pitcher in baseball.
60 saves. He blew like 2 saves. What happened? What happened?
He became a Met. He became a Met.
Yeah. That's why Bauer didn't come. I'll tell you what happened to Diaz.
It ends up being a freaking stud, which I think he will be. That trade's going to look even worse.
Yeah.
What? Oh, yeah. The Cano trade. Brodie Van Wagenen deserves to have a day at Citi Field where all the fans can gather and, like in the old days, just throw stones at, like, you know, just have him. We all meet in the middle. He'll go on the pitching mound and we all just get to throw something at him because, geez, what did he do? He gave his Familia 18 mil contract. Okay, he traded for Stroman, who didn't even play while he was there. I mean, everything kind of crumbled under him. The Kelnick trade is just
Cano.
Well, Cano, but it's funny. The best thing to come out of Cano is he gave us money this year after Brodie left because I don't know what happened, but apparently
got steroids.
So it's like Brodie was getting it under the table. I don't know what was happening, but
I was looking at some of the Mets signings too, and one guy that we signed, which I think kind of gets swept under a little bit because he was a big prospect for the Cardinals, but Jose Martinez.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited. I want to see what he does. He's still only 28 years old. This was supposed to be a big prospect for the Cardinals, play first base, battled some injuries. I think I'm really interested to see what the Mets can do with him because he can rotate at first base so that this way he could get Dom in the outfield. And I believe he can even rotate some outfield as well. So
yeah,
it's funny because we forget about some of these guys that the Mets did sign.
Well, we also have Malik Smith, who people forget about. He's actually a defensive center fielder.
He came up with the Braves. He came up with the Braves, didn't he?
I don't know who he came up with. I know he was with Seattle. He was with Seattle most recently.
I think he initially came up with the Braves. I remember when he made his debut. He's fast. He is
fast.
Yeah.
Dude, the Mets need some base stealers too. That's another thing. And I talked about that in the video about Jackie Bradley. As much of a defensive house and force that Jackie Bradley is, I mean, he had the one good year at the plate, but he doesn't bring a whole lot to the table, in my opinion, other than the glove, because he doesn't really swipe bases. And, you know, again, other than last year, the small sample size, he doesn't really hit that great. So it's kind of hard. Again, it's take your pick. Who would you really rather? Because for me, you either have Bradley or Nimmo start in center, and the other one's got to ride the bench and play, you know, that platoon pinch.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. Yeah,
if
if you sign Bradley, Nimmo's either getting traded or going to the bench. Because you're not signing Bradley to bench him. So that's what you got to ask yourself as a Met fan.
Shout out John Talento again. Lugo should be the closer. He damn well should be the closer. The best part of the Mets season last year is when he was closing and they gave up on Diaz. And Diaz was doing great in the setup role. And then Lugo had to jump to the rotation. Diaz moved back up and it all went to crap again. So I think Lugo should be the closer, but they
won't be, though. Not to start, he won't.
I don't think they will, and I think, honestly, they're probably going to need him to stretch innings. I really do. The Mets always do. Him and Gesellman are just going to get those short outings. They're going to have to bridge the 5th to the 7th or something along those lines for whatever reason because it just happens every year. Bring back Billy Hamilton. No Matt D. No more Billy Hamiltons. We don't do. Do you remember they brought Billy Hamilton to steal bases, and I'm pretty sure he got thrown out every time he attempted to steal with the New York Mets. So let's not bring back Billy Hamilton. He's just messing around. I know you were, but still, yeah. And then Kelnick would be nice right now. It would be because we're looking for an outfielder. Yeah. We're looking for a corner outfielder, so it would be nice because then maybe we move Conforto to the left, and then you have Kelnick in right where he's at. So.
A lot of questions still need to be answered, but regardless, even after today, I still want to say that I'm maintaining optimism for this year's team. Even last year, I think the Mets were a playoff team last year. Had it not been for the pandemic, and everything else, obviously our second and third starters were down. Syndergaard got the injury. Obviously, Stroman sat out. I think the Mets had the talent to make the playoffs last year. And now this year, you had the best shortstop in baseball. You had an upgraded catcher. You had Carrasco to the rotation. I'm confident in this team going into the year. I think we are a very good baseball team.
I saw it earlier in the comments, and we haven't talked about him a lot. And I think if it was 2 years ago and the offseason going into last season, it's all we would talk about. I, for one, have high hopes for Pete Alonso this season. And I think he's about to explode. I really do. I think he's being slept on. And if you look at the numbers, don't even take my opinion. He slumped the first maybe month of the season, the first 20. The last 40 games was on an absolute tear all around. And that wouldn't have been in a regular season. That's not even the All-Star break yet. It takes time. Baseball is not like any other sport. It takes time for players to get hot. So if you give Pete 152 games, whether he's still batting 260 or not, the power numbers will be there.
He's hitting you 40. He's a given 40. He's getting you 40.
Yeah, I just think, we add Lindor. Lindor is going to kind of mend it all together and link the struggles we had offensively last year in moving runners over, getting them home from being in scoring position. He's the Jeff McNeil, just like MVP form. He's like to the next level.
Jeff McNeil times 2.
Get times like 3, like MVP McNeil. Like seriously, from both sides, he can do it. Insane on the field. So I'm here for this Mets lineup. I think you absolutely hit on the head. McCann, very underrated signing. We're not done though. We're definitely not done. And let's not forget too. We should have made the playoffs because the Marlins made the playoffs. That's not okay. It's not okay.
I guarantee you that will not happen this year. I guarantee it.
Not happen this year. That was embarrassing, honestly. It was kind of embarrassing. I mean, good for them, but the Marlins.
But that just goes to show you 60 games, anything can happen.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, I had no idea that the entertainer was friends with Kristaps Porzingis. So
he's one of my most popular trolls actually on Twitter and on.
Well, he's not doing so well this year. So
to Ray, Pete did look lost at the plate last season, but I also think he had a lot of pressure on him. You're coming off the career year, rookie of the year, home run champ. He was a rookie. He was a baby.
Go through sophomore slumps. We see
yeah.
all.
He was a baby, and again, he figured it out. So something has to be said to that. Shout out to my guy Routines, who I see him hopping into Periscope. Our bullpen is just as bad as the Phillies. Oh, can't be as bad as the Phillies. That's better, Matt D. There's no way it could be as bad as the Phillies. Actually, the only way it could be worse is if Diaz pitched every inning. That's the only way.
The only two teams that scare me in our division are the Nationals and the Braves. I'm not worried about the Phillies personally. I know the Phillies have firepower. I'm not too worried about them. I'm really not. I think the Nationals, the Braves, and the Mets, it's pretty dead even. I could see any one of those three teams winning this division, and I think we're gonna have one of the most competitive divisions in the sport. But I'm not too worried about the Phillies. I'm really not. Their pitching doesn't scare me. Their bullpen's horrible. I'm more so worried about the Nationals because of their starting pitching, and just the Braves because of their all around baseball team.
That's a sneaky insight because I always forget about the Nats, and I think it's because the Mets play them so well. I still can't believe they pulled off that World Series. To tie it to the Super Bowl this weekend, the guy Mattress Mac, who infamously put $3 million+ on the Astros to win that World Series, mind you, not only did the Nats win that, the Astros were still cheating. And they beat him at home. I think the whole thing just blows my mind on so many levels that they actually pulled that off. I mean, that's nuts. Good for them. I mean, we made it. We couldn't pull it off. But again, the Royals had been there before. But still, the Astros also were there before and were cheating, and they still managed to pull it out. Good for them. I hate the Nats. Good for that. Isn't that crazy? They cheated.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny to me when you look at baseball compared to football? It is proven the Patriots got caught cheating at the highest level. Spygate, Deflategate, whether or not whatever it is. But regardless, they did things to get a competitive advantage. But when it comes to the Patriots, everyone just bats an eye. They're like, and last year they got caught with the Kraft Productions, whatever it was. And everybody
just talking about when he went to go to get a luxury massage
with the camera crew. No, there was a camera crew. I forget what game it was, but I think it was against Cincinnati. It was against a horrible team, and they got caught doing that. And everybody, when it comes to the Patriots, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Brady's the greatest quarterback ever. Belichick's the greatest coach ever." But when it comes to baseball, and they do it, they want these guys kicked out of the league. They want these guys never to step foot in the Hall of Fame. It's just the double standards to me. Like football, it's okay. But baseball, it's like the end of the world. And I'm completely, against cheating in either sport. But it's just funny to me how with football, people still, hold these guys to such a high standard.
And the Astros are lucky son of a guns that last year didn't have fans in the full season. And I think the fans of baseball, the diehard fans, won't forget. I think the boos will still come when the Houston Astros come into town because they were going to go on probably one of the worst slander tours of the year ever. Because
it's been rumored, actually, that the Astros were the ones that started this virus because they didn't want to have to go through it last year.
Yes, I've heard that too.
It's just funny to me because so many Yankee fans were outraged by the cheating scandal. But the Yankees, what was it, just a year or two beforehand, were told to stop recording signs themselves. But it was before everybody had been warned, so it was okay then. But
wait, Mage, who was a Met longer though, Carlos Beltran or who lasted longer, Bauer as a Met or Beltran as manager? That's the better way to phrase the question because Beltran was a Met.
Well, I think it was Beltran as manager.
Yeah, it'd have to be by a few hours. We
have the worst luck in the world. We have the worst luck in the world.
Now, Tino brought it up on our podcast about Jared Porter. He couldn't wait to get it out on Clapback Sports. He couldn't wait to get it out. And then a week later, we find out Mickey Callaway is sending Peter picks as well.
We haven't talked about that. Well, we don't claim him anymore. From
now on, the first thing the Mets have to do when they interview somebody, they have to look at their phone history. You have to look at the phone history.
Hand over your phone. We got to do an extensive.
They do it when you apply to the NYPD. I remember when I was a kid. They got to do that now for guys when they come in here because it's just too much. And Beltran, we just have the worst luck because there's no way they could have known Beltran did what he did. There's no way they could have known that both of those guys did what they did. It's just the Mets just have the worst luck. They really do.
Also, thank you, John. John said that he loves the stream. Really appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, I had it up. Then we started talking about dick pics. Shout out to John again. I appreciate that we're doing our best. Just I don't know what it is. You're right. It's New Yorkers in general. Just leave the dick pics at home, fellas. Just
Brett
let it.
Favre did it when he was a Jet too.
Anthony Weiner. He's not an athlete, but
Anthony Weiner. Yeah, he was an up-and-coming politician. You ever seen that? You saw that documentary? That was a good documentary, the Weiner documentary. Not the Anthony Weiner documentary.
I'm not sure what might pop up when I put in the Weiner documentary, but. And then you got the complete opposite. Talking about the Braves, you guys remember the series with John Rocker? He's talking about riding the subway to Queens.
Yeah. Did you go to any of those Braves games back in the day in the 99-2000 with Rocker?
I went to I think one. It was insane.
Remember when they used to throw batteries at him? They used to throw batteries at him.
Yep. And batteries at Brody. See, it all ties in. History repeats itself. We bring Brody back and we throw the batteries. I love it, guys. I love it.
Brody, man.
Well,
Troy, we appreciate. Thank you to everybody, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
We're trying to get this channel off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
We appreciate each and every one of you guys for showing up. Whoever came over from my channel, all the new subscribers that may have found. Tino has been doing a great job with the videos. Just can't say thank you. Yeah, they've been all right. But no, all kidding aside, we can't say thank you enough for everybody for popping in. We're going to have a lot more content up as the season gets closer, when the Mets become more relevant, spring training gets into the fold. We're going to have post-game recap streams, things like that. And any ideas that you guys may have. Just like my channel, I always like to reach out to the subscribers, get recommendations. I was telling Tino I want to do down on the farms once a week, kind of report on what they're doing in the farms, kind of do division previews. any suggestions that you guys may have, we want to make content that you guys want to watch. So,
and some other things. If any of you guys in here like sports cards, you also just start letting us know. Just chirp in the comments. Let us know some of the cards you found. Eventually, not yet. We talked about Noah. We got a little Noah giveaway coming. Not yet. Not yet. That's a teaser. We'll wait for things to get good. But let us know if you like sports cards. Me and the Entertainer are big in it. Mage is getting in it as well. I know it's erupted over the COVID season. So, really big. Obviously, it's baseball season. So I love to talk sports cards with you guys too. Any prospects. We're trying to wrap ourselves around Mets content right now. But really, we're going to get on here and do live streams and just talk about baseball in general. I mean, eventually come season time, we're going to be talking about all the news that's out there, whether it's just Bauer or any other big stuff, that's going on in free agency elsewhere. But, to start, I appreciate all the core Mets fans that tune in every week. Check out those videos and, flood the comments. I love to hear a Mets fan perspective. May said it best in his tweet. We've been suffering for years, so take your best shots. Like, let me know how you're feeling. We're here for you. The only one who can understand is other Met fans. No one else can relate to the feeling that we have inside. I think you guys can attest to that as well.
Well, it doesn't do any good if you don't give them any context to it, right? So yesterday when we were recording the Clapback Sports podcast, right, the news broke by Bob Nightingale. So we had Murph on the podcast, who is a Yankees fan. So naturally, I start teasing him, start calling the Yankees a poor poverty franchise, start calling it at him. And then today, Bauer ditches us for the Dodgers, and he's on my ass like nobody else. And I said, look, I'm already dead inside. I've been a Mets fan forever. Give me that shot. It doesn't matter.
It's true. It's true, though. We've been through it all, but ultimately, guys, yeah, we do bleed orange and blue, and I would rather not be a fan of any other team than the Mets. We've already kind of gave the intro. This is kind of the way I found sports, and I'm happy about it. It's taught me a lot of life lessons. It's, we're all Giant fans as well, and I think I probably would be.
It's not easy being a Giant fan either, just not on the same level as the Mets.
But at least we've got some championships. That's what I was going to get at. That recovers for me getting through it, but. The Mets teach valuable lessons, and I think we learned one today too. Don't count those chickens. Don't you dare count those chickens. And sometimes, even when it seems too good to be true, it probably is, honestly.
Especially when it's the Mets. Especially when it's the
Mets. Yeah, we got Beltran. Let's go.
I people like Yankee fans will come in, they'll rub it in because obviously I'm a Giants channel, so you'll have a lot of they're more so Yankee fans than Met fans. It just comes with the territory. I'm an oddity. I want to torture in life, but it's like a community. Like, I'm proud to be a Mets fan, and maybe there's Yankee fans listening, whatever. I'm sorry if I offend you guys. I think it's boring if you're a Yankees fan, to be honest with you. Most Yankee fans, they sleep through the regular season. They're like, wake me up in October. They don't know what it's like. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely super diehard Yankee fans that live and die with every pitch, but Met fans as a whole, Curtis Granderson even said it, who played for both teams. He played for the Yankees. He played for the Mets. He said Met fans are on another level. We live, die, we breathe, eat, and sleep baseball. We love our baseball team. Every pitch feels like a playoff pitch for us. And I'm proud to be a Mets fan. It's my favorite team to root for. I'll be the first to say it. Obviously, I'm more in tune with the Giants because it's who I cover, and I love the Giants to death. But when it comes to baseball, man, there is no team I'd rather see win a championship than the New York Mets. I've been a diehard Met fan since I was like 10, 11 years old, and it's Met fans die. They live for their baseball team. If you're a Met fan, out of every sports team, not just in New York, I don't think there's a harder team to root for than the New York Mets because you share a city with the New York Yankees. There's no other Yankees.
We're Giants fans, so we can at least sympathize with Jets fans, though, as Mets fans, because it's the same process for Jets fans. It's like the Giants are the bigger brother. The Jets have kind of been, I don't want to say laughing stock, but the little brother for quite some time. Same thing between the Mets and Yankees, right? And I love that Yankee fans bring up the fact that they got 27 world championships. What was it? 13 of them, 14 of them were won before there was even when there was 4 teams in the league. So, let them count them. That's fine. The Mets day is coming. I see Pistol Pete. Pistol Pete said that he was fortunate enough to see the 86 Mets. So all I have in my lifetime, I was alive during the 86, just don't remember it. But yeah, well, I
This
have
is for you too, Mage. You're old. LOL. You skipped over that part.
but that was on purpose by design. But thank you.
As a youngin who didn't see the '86 World Series, I'm not letting that one slide.
Well, let me ask you guys a question. What is your biggest heartbreaking moment as a Met fan?
Something I would say, I think it's easy to say the playoffs, the Beltran strikeout. I think it's the next year. I think when we should have went back and we blew it. We had to verse the Marlins in that last series. I believe it was Marlins, right? Miguel Cabrera was still on the team. They were not good. And we blew that series. I remember because I had already cried the year before, but that one I couldn't believe it. And I think I knew at that point, I was like, this is probably the end of this. Like this little run that we had. And it ultimately was because they really weren't.
Same thing happened again in 08.
Yeah. So probably that. I was most heartbroken when we blew the division the year after making the NLCS. So that's probably 2008. Yeah.
That's when we got Santana too, and we thought he was going to be the piece to put us over the top. What about you, Mish?
I don't know. Even though we got blown out, for me, it might have been the Subway World Series.
Yeah.
Just because
I don't think we got blown out though. The final, the 4-1 says we were blown out.
Yeah.
We could have easily won every one of those games.
I know, and that whole atmosphere was just so electric. But when you go back and honestly, like you look at that Mets team, they had no business really being in that World Series. Benny Agbayani, and Chavez, Timo Perez, like I don't know. It was it was heartbreaking because it was who we lost to, I think. And, it was in the greatest city in the world, and it was just on display for everybody. So,
for me, and I'm thinking back when I was a kid, maybe I was a little bit more emotional. 99, we go on that run. It was our first taste at the playoffs. First taste is me as a Met fan in the playoffs. 99, that is probably to this day my favorite Mets team. I fell in love with that team. That's after we got Piazzi. I think he joined in 98. The 99 team makes the playoffs. Edgardo Alfonso was my favorite Met of all time. They get in. They beat Cincinnati in the play-in game. The magical series against the Diamondbacks where Todd Braddock hits the game winner where Steve Finley thought it was going in his mitt somehow. And then you start to think as a kid, as a Met fan, this is magical. Then we verse the Atlanta Braves. We fall down 3-0. We win 3-1. We have the walk-off grand slam single with Ventura to send it to Game 6. And then in Game 6, Benitez blows it. John Franco blows it. We go to like the 11th, the 12th inning, and then Kenny Rogers walks in the game-winning run to end the season in Game 6 of the NLC. I broke down in tears. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I had school the next day. I broke down in tears for like an hour. I was beside myself. That, to me, is my most heartbreaking Mets moment.
I'm reverting back to what Ray West said. We traded 40 years of luck for one Buckner error. And honestly, I think he's right because we were just talking about the Castillo drop. Yeah, but that was a regular season game. That K-Rod error was a joke as well. But when I saw Chavez make that over the catch ball, and that's what I mean. When it looks too good to be true, like most of the time you see the ball going your way like that, you're like, we got this. We're not losing this. We just robbed a home run. We're home. Oh, momentum.
It was like the Tyreek catch. It was like the Tyreek catch. Only the Giants won.
Yeah, and we converted our third downs. The Giants did. The Mets did not convert their third downs in that game. Whatever the analogy would be, Beltran didn't swing the bat, but yeah, that.
And I still go back to that. By the way, everybody puts that on Beltran, and I get it. Right? It was a great pitch. Okay, that was a nasty curveball, but I remember watching the game. And I say to myself, I think they had a guy in second with nobody out, right? Is that what it was? And he pinch hits Cliff Floyd, who was injured. And I'm like, Willie, bunt him over to third. I never understood why they brought up Cliff Floyd in that spot. I know that he loved Cliff Floyd, and I love Cliff Floyd, but it wasn't the time to bring him up. They needed to bunt him over to third in that spot. I thought it was a horrible managerial job by Willie Randolph. Obviously, everybody just remembers Beltran, strike three looking, but I thought they should have had the sacrifice bunt to get him over to third.
Well, no, I always just remember Cliff Floyd because I never liked his batting stance. It just used to bother me that he just used to like hop the lefty. You remember he kind of like, bopped his shoulders a little bit. And he hit the shit out of the ball, but still, I just used to irk the shit out of me. It's like a Craig Counsell windup,
Yeah. Counsell had the weirdest stance, didn't he?
Yeah, I actually on MLB Network, they had a breakdown of all the weirdest stances in baseball for a while there. So pretty interesting. I didn't see all of them, but
Julio Franco's got to be up there.
Julio Franco was as well. I think Euclid is up there.
Sheffield.
Yeah, Sheffield's up there as well. I liked Euclid's. I actually did.
That was like this, right?
Yeah, he'd fingertip it and then he'd just slide it down. Really, it was just timing. It was all he was doing. It was what timing. That catch was a double play. He should have been bunted over. It's right, Pistol Pete. Yeah, I mean, look, heartbreaking moments all around for the Mets, but ultimately, we're kind of not really dealing with a heartbreak now. But again, we're used to it. We're used to it of what happened today. Like with Bauer, like this wasn't surprising to me. And I think, what I'm getting out of all of this is that all Mets fans and even us are in consensus that this is probably the best thing that kind of could have happened to us because we can now look at the team as a whole. We're not top heavy in just that rotation. It would have been great to have the best rotation baseball, but we still have holes. This team is not perfect. We're not, outright the favorites in our division. So we have money to spend now and we have things to address. And it looks like we still have an offseason to endure, fellas. We're not done yet.
The one thing I'll say, though, and maybe I'm just a very optimistic Met fan, on paper, at least going into a year, to start a year, can't remember a talented Met team in quite some time. I think this is a very talented, maybe 2016, coming off the 2015 playoffs when they brought everybody back. Maybe I felt a little bit better about that team. But this is one of the better Met teams going into a year that they've had since I've been watching the team. So there's no reason to think if things don't bounce our way, we stay healthy, we make a couple of big acquisitions at the deadline, that we can't be right in the thick of it come October. And that's all you can ask for as a Met fan.
The bullpen still scares the hell out of me, though.
Oh, the bullpen sucks. but maybe they pitched to the back of their baseball card before they were Mets this year.
It'll make it an entertaining season, fellas. It's going to make it a really entertaining season because we're just going to buckle in. The better the games go early on, the more we're going to shit our pants as the game progresses. We're just going to be like, when's it coming? You need something bad to happen. I remember it with the Nats 2 years ago when we were making the push. 2 years ago. And we had that historic run and we had beat Doolittle. We won 8 in a row, whatever. Stroman had pitched crazy. Before we got Doolittle to blow the game, we blew the game. And it's almost like you need the Mets to blow the game in the 8th. So we have the bottom of the 8th and the 9th to recover. That's what it's like being a Met fan. It's like we need it to happen. We need to spare ourselves a couple innings. So this way, when shit gets bad, we have some time to recover. So yeah. Hey,
I just want to say hello to Lloyd. You just brought up his comment. He's a great subscriber on my channel. Thank you so much for coming in, Lloyd. Well, Jameson's a great subscriber on my channel too.
Yeah, Jameson, what's up, man?
Pistol Pete, man, all these guys, they're always supporting me, and I appreciate all you guys coming over here to help get this channel off the ground. And I know you guys are always in my Met streams, which I'll continue over there, and we're gonna do, like I said, do the post games over here. We're gonna grow this channel up, and I'm looking forward to it, man. To having just an all New York Mets channel. It's going to be so much fun growing this with you guys. So thank you to everybody for jumping over here, man.
Yeah, everybody being active as well in the chat really helps keep the conversation going. Sharing a little bit of your pain with us as well. People ask me how I prepare for marriage. I say by being a Mets fan.
Have you ever thought about divorcing the Mets?
I'm loyal. I'm too loyal. That's it. I endure the pain. I don't know when to give up.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of enjoy the pain just to be able to tell those battle stories when they finally win one.
50 Shades of Blue.
50 Shades of Blue. You want to know how I feel if I had to describe me being a Mets fan? It's the infamous video of at the Mets game, that really jacked guy who's trying to open the water bottle, and Gary Cohen's doing the play-by-play. The guy's like, he can't open the water bottle, and he has to get his girlfriend to do it. That's the Mets most of the time. We look really good on the outside, but on the inside, softies. Softies. Until the trade deadline, until August. August is the Mets month, and I guess Yankee fans wait for October for a Met fan. I mean, for me, always, let's get to the All-Star break above 500. Let's breathe, tread water, and then let's get ready to gear up for August, get some moves at the trade deadline, and, full steam ahead. Because that's just what we are. That's our bread and butter. I don't think we'll ever change.
And sometimes it works, like with Cespedes, and sometimes it doesn't, like when we traded for Chris Benson and Victor Zambrano. So let's get to the trade deadline and let's hope it works this year, man.
Chris Benson. We had some legendary Mets.
Remember his wife? Remember Anna Benson? She was a porn star, or at least she acted like it.
Oh no, she was.
Yeah.
You can't just act. You can't just. Well, I guess porn stars are actors too, right? So,
Yeah.
Mage knows all about that. Yeah, guys, but this is great. This was awesome sharing stories like this. We plan on doing more streams like this. Most of the time, we're aiming for more, Mets-related content to be out there, the bigger news, so this way we could fill the show up and be on here with all you guys and talk to you for as long as possible. But we're going to try to get things going like this, especially if you guys want to be active in the chat. It helps us, like Mage said. It'll just keep this going. We want to build a community. We want to be in touch with you guys and know what you're thinking. And just, again, we want to pull on the heartstrings with Mets fans because that's how we're feeling. Treat this as therapy, fellas. Let's treat this as therapy sometimes. Come season time, we're going to have some dark moments. But it's okay because we'll have each other.
And we're going to celebrate a lot, too. We're going to celebrate a lot, too. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about this channel. Two great guys. Met them when I hopped on the Giants podcast that they do, which, we'll be plugging that throughout it as well as this channel continues to grow, Clapback Sports. But I'm excited to get to experience a great Mets season with you guys, all my great subscribers, and all the new subscribers that we bring in via this channel. And I think it's going to be a great journey. And I think there's going to be a really fun year to cover the Mets. I think the Mets are going to be one of the hotter stories in baseball. We're going to be an aggressive team. We got a new owner, and we've got newfound hope as a franchise. We finally got Wilpon out the door. And, we'll be doing these a lot more often. We're going to have a lot more live streams as it gets closer to the regular season. But kind of want to just pop on tonight because obviously major story in baseball that we were attached to. And kind of give myself therapy as well as some of you guys that are popping in. And I saw Lloyd bring up Bradley. Yeah, we touched on him. I wouldn't cry if we brought in Bradley. The thing with Bradley that I think we kind of all agreed on is, the stick. I don't know how good his bat is. Last year, I think it was kind of a fluke. He's a glove, but that's about all he brings to the table. Kind of like Tino was saying, he doesn't bring much of the stolen base flavor to it. But I'll stop rambling. You guys go ahead.
No, it's good. John made me laugh. I need therapy every night, fellas, and it's true. I would if I could. And if we could do this every night, maybe come the regular season, we will. And to Jameson, the two people with John, we got Tino over here. My man to my left, aiming this way, is the Mage. Me and Mage have a New York-based sports, mostly Giants sports, podcast together. It's called Clapback Sports. You can check that stuff out. We're active on Twitter. We're active on our podcast as well. But I love meeting new people, love meeting new Mets fans. So I know, Jameson, that you're cool with Chris.
He's actually a Braves fan, Jameson.
He's a Braves.
He tuned into all my live streams. He's a Braves fan.
Yes, let's not go down this road. Just give us those in. Let's not do this then. But hey, listen, I appreciate you guys tuning out again. Yeah.
Where can they find us though? Also on Twitter. It's a great time for a plug.
This is a good time for a plug. We're trying to get active on Twitter, fellas. It's not my strongest suit, but the same way you see it on the top behind Mage and in the corner of this screen is the same way we are on Twitter. Whaddya Shea, 2D, spelled like Shea Stadium. And if you're watching this maybe on Twitter, on the Periscope, or through the Whaddya Shea Twitter, make sure you head over to YouTube, subscribe on there as well. Again, we're growing. I love to see it. I love seeing you guys active in the comments as well. I try to get to all you guys and that stuff as well. And we have plenty of content to talk about.
And one thing we have to do this year, if things get back to normal, I talk about doing meetups on my Giants channel. We have some meetups, with some of the subscribers and us as well, going to some Met games. I think that'd be a blast. So if things get back to normal, it's something I definitely want to organize. That'd be really cool for the channel too, to vlog it and everything at the stadium. So that's another thing we can talk about.
Start an OnlyFans account, but
we could do that. I mean, listen, for the right price, I'm open to anything.
Hey, look, if the Mets end up being a Cinderella story, maybe we'll wear dresses here one day on live stream. So
I'll dress up as let's not get into this because I don't want the photo to leak. But somewhere out there, I did dress up as a Disney princess in one funniest costume my senior year in high school. And I'm pretty sure
I'm not surprised.
I was Sleeping Beauty, I think. I'm not Cinderella. I don't think. See, I wasn't the main one. I was like a fill-in, so I got Sleeping Beauty. But let's not let that video. Let's not let that picture get out there.
Yeah, I do like that idea, though, Entertainer. Let's do that. So if there is actually fans in the stands this year, and they allow in some capacity, I think a barbecue tailgate Maybe we'll even do a collab on the Giants as well at Giant Stadium. But let's get to Citi Field.
Yeah,
Ray, I'll buy you a beer, and I'll also buy you a shot because you need something to chase with. So I'll let you chase with the beer and get you guys a shot.
I'm gonna say one thing about the I don't mean to keep cutting you off. I just think of things when we're talking. I'll say one thing about the beer at Citi Field. I've been to several baseball stadiums. The beer selection at Citi Field is as good as it gets. The food and the beer at Citi Field is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, Shake Shack's insane. Steve Cohen's only gonna make the food better. You want to know what's great? Have you had the ice cream where they serve it in like the waffle? They have that.
And the cookie dough. The cookie dough is really good there too.
The cookie doughs, I mean, next level. They really are next level. The sausage and peppers hits the spot always. And the beer. But I drink anything. I'm like a fish. So like I guess I haven't noticed that part yet. I'll just drink it. Most of the time it gets too warm throughout the game anyways. But so it looks like Ozuna, according to the Sauce Boss, Ozuna re-signed with the Braves. I hope you're not a Bob Nightingale and playing us. If that is the case, the Braves definitely keep their core of the lineup, and I think that's a nice move for them. He was the best outfielder or corner outfielder left out there.
Yeah, he's a really good bat for them. He came up with the Marlins, right? Marcell Ozuna. Yep. Remember if they kept that team together, that Marlins team, they had the guy won the MVP a couple of years ago.
The outfield would have been on paper the best outfield. It's Yelich, Stanton, and Ozuna.
Yelich, Stanton, and Ozuna. That was their outfield.
And then D. Gordon was at second. He also got shipped off. He hasn't done as great, but And then R.I.P. Jose Fernandez. I think that's ultimately when like everything crashed because they had it together. The Marlins were like right there.
But that's what the Marlins always do. They draft so well. They get all these prospects. They build them up, and they try to go on a 1 or 2 years, and it worked for them twice. They try to go, and then they sell everybody off. That's what they always. They stole Reyes from us. And then they sold him a year later.
Yeah, Matty D is right. Real Muto is on that team too. I mean, that is a sick squad.
That's right. Real Muto.
That's like a $4 million assembly right there. In Real Muto, Stan. I mean, that's Stan's contract too. Probably more than $4 million. No, I think about it. Ozuna, it's official, 4 years, $65 million. So there you go. But still, hey, he was on a 1-year deal last year. It was 1 year, $18 million. So it looks like he got a nice little.
I'm thinking of all the former Mets that ended up going to the Marlins. Remember Mike Jacobs?
Of course, Mike Jacobs.
He ended up going to the Marlins. He came up with us. He ended up going to the Marlins. Obviously,
I remember he was supposed to be huge.
Yeah.
Really supposed to be huge.
Preston Wilson, obviously, in the Piazza trade.
Mm-hmm.
So many former Mets ended up with the Marlins.
You want to know what I always think of whenever I think of a Met going somewhere else?
He was a Marlin, too.
Yes, he was. Came up as a Marlin. Yeah. Luis Castillo, we wish he stayed with the
Luis
Marlins.
Castillo.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, their World Series team was sick. Their World Series team is nuts. The talent that they had there as well. But I mean, Miggy was everything I needed. Hanley Ramirez too. What happened to Hanley Ramirez is nuts because he was next level good as well.
He was MVP level. He was number one. He was the number one pick in fantasy. I remember a couple, for a while there.
Yeah, that loaded. This
was a big pitcher too.
And then they make the playoffs last year, and they don't have any of these guys. I couldn't even tell you the main person on the Marlins last year. I just know Sandy Alcantara is he was their main ace. But yeah, Jose Fernandez was dominant. And if you really want a good ESPN story, and it's a documentary, it might be a 30 for 30. It's what kind of they take you through Jose Fernandez's night. It's wild, and they take you to the game. The first game that the Marlins played was against the Mets.
Yeah, I remember that.
D. Gordon led off the game with a home run, I believe.
I remember that.
We were part of that as fans.
I've cried twice, to the best of my memory, when someone has died. Jose Fernandez was the first. Kobe Bryant was the second.
Wow.
So Jose Fernandez, I mean, he was just such a promising kid, too. And I will say this, it's not funny, but I'll label it more as ironic. So 2 days prior to Jose Fernandez passing away, I was in a baseball keeper league with my boy J-Ball, who I grew up with, and I traded him Jose Fernandez for Chris Bryant. And then 2 days later, Jose Fernandez ends up passing away.
Oh, God.
So did you cry about the trade, or did you Did you cry about it?
No, I got rid of Fernandez, so I got
okay. I heard it wrong at first.
on the other end of it, but I mean, it was just a shame because such a young kid, so promising on our future, and when an athlete goes like that, it's so shocking, especially when you're really involved with them in terms of he was still playing. Like I said, I just traded him in the fantasy team. To hear somebody go that suddenly, it's sad. Like same thing like Kobe Bryant. Like we wake up and we're like, nah, this can't be right. This is just a fake story. And you're like, oh my God, Kobe's gone. Like how could that be? Like he just tweeted at LeBron like the night before. Like I mean, I think it's most sad when players go all of a sudden just like that.
Yeah. It was out of their control. It was a boat accident with Jose Fernandez. Obviously, we don't know what was happening, but he was on the boat, and then with Kobe, it's a heli. It was a helicopter. So, sad stuff.
Yeah. Another former Marlin I'm thinking about, there was a pitcher that was great for a short period of time, was Dontrelle Willis.
I said that while you guys were talking. Nobody listened to me.
Oh, I didn't hear you. My bad.
They also had Mike Lowell and
Mike Lowell. That's right. Came up with them. Who was
Lowell was nasty.
They had a actually Lowell started with the Yankees, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Mike Cameron was really good on the Marlins too, though. If I'm this is to back what you said. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think
Cliff Floyd was a Marlin.
Cliff Floyd was a Marlin.
Dan Ugla.
You want to know who was their center fielder? Oh my God! Don't tell me he was shifty. He was fast. He stole a shit. Juan Pierre. They used to have Pierre and Castillo at the top of the order. 1-2. Yeah, dude. Juan Pierre was filthy when he got it. He made Billy Hamilton look like the poor man's Juan Pierre. Juan Pierre did it first. You walk him, he's stealing second and third base, and then you're gonna hit him in on the sac fly. He was that fast.
Let me ask you guys real quick. Who is your favorite Met of all? Like I shouldn't even say who's the Met that you got most excited to watch in your lifetime?
Oof, it's a good question. I'll tell you the most excited I was because he was my favorite player for a while because I was at the game. When David Wright returned the year we went to the World Series, I was at the game in Philly, and that was the most. Yeah, that was the most excited. I saw it. I was right down left field, and I was so hyped because I didn't know what to expect. Like this was my guy. He had been out of the game for so long, and the Mets were rolling, so we kind of just threw him in that. We ended up sweeping Philly in that series. I went to school down in South Jersey, so I went to every game. I brought a broom to the last game. It was hilarious. And so I saw him hit that home run, and he made a play at third. He looked like David Wright, and that was probably the most excited I got to see him Met. Just seeing the guy I knew and who I loved just suit back up again and pick it up like he never left because he had some serious surgery too. He very much been that way.
And then the infamous moment from that season for me was when he pumped the fist. Remember when he pumped the fist after he slid into home or whatever it was? That was the infamous moment there for me. What about you, Mish?
See, for me, I think it goes by period. So, because growing up, I idolized Strawberry. And then again, I have an affection for Piazza, but if I had to narrow it down, favorite Met of all time, I think it's probably got to be David Wright or even Jacob deGrom at this point.
Mm.
My favorite Met, see, that's why that's most exciting. My favorite Met is Edgardo Alfonso. I grew up loving Edgardo Alfonso. He was so clutch. He couldn't strike the guy out. Anytime he needed a big hit, he got it. But the guy that I always thought was worth the price of admission, and anytime he came to the plate, I got so excited was Jose Reyes. Jose Reyes, when he first came up, man, that guy, man, whether it was in the field or whether it was running first to third, he just brought energy to that team. Professor Reyes, remember when you used to go to the stadiums at Shea? I loved Jose Reyes. I freaking loved it. It was too short-lived. He could have been one of the greatest of all time. Injuries got the best of him, but I freaking
when you put it like
Jose
that,
Reyes.
Jose was the first name that came to my mind also.
He was
electricity.
He was the definition of electric. Because when we talked, I was talking about Juan Pierre stealing bases. He was doing that, hitting for average and hitting home runs. I mean, Reyes was deadly on the base path. So, yeah. David Wright, though. I saw a lot of David Wrights out there. See, I wish I was old enough. I like Lloyd that he said Seaver. I wish. I really wish I got a taste of Seaver. I never got enough of that. There's some good Mets, even Strawberry. Doc and Strawberry, I didn't get to really see them either. So I feel like those are some big ones I missed out on, because I know from what I've seen and from what I've heard is just Strawberry coming up. I mean, his rookie year, you talk about taking over a league, and Doc especially, I heard it was just surreal. I mean, it was next level shit. Like they had never seen anything like it. I mean, Doc was the best thing since sliced bread. He was the best thing since Seaver in his rookie year. I mean, he was
Doc in '84 is one of the greatest, or '85 was it? Was one of the greatest years in the history of baseball for a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys sharing everything in the chat. We are, I think, going to wrap up, unfortunately. This has been fun. I'll hang out for any last comments real quick. I know Asia wants me to shout her out. She's trying to say stand up, Chris. So shout out to Asia. I can't
What's
find
going on,
comment.
Asia? Thanks for popping in.
That is a comment from Asia. But hey, I appreciate. Oh, there you go. Hi,
Asia.
Hey, Asia. I'm happy you all tuned into this. Again, this is probably the first live stream. Yeah, it is the first live stream we've done on the channel itself. We did do our first on Chris's channel. If anyone here doesn't have Chris on YouTube yet, you're missing out. Obviously, go to his channel. We're going to feed off each other throughout the season on that. We'll be jumping there to do Giant stuff, I'm sure, at some point. But this will be primarily our Mets channel, our Mets home. So be on the lookout for whatever Chris puts out there. And if he tells you guys anything in terms of the Mets channel, Whaddya Shea, just know we will be active over here. He's a man of his word. So if he knows something going on this channel when he's doing a game, we will probably be doing post games and things like that over here. So there's a lot that we have in the works here. We're going to be active on this channel. And, we've said it a million times. I'm looking forward to it. I think this has a lot of room to grow, and I'm excited to do it with you guys. So this was fun.
Yeah, for sure. And I know a lot of you guys you'll be in my streams, and that's the plan, man. Do the streams like I always do on my channel, and start to shuffle some of the new guys over to this channel as we do the post games and try to get this channel to grow. So, yeah, I had a blast. Love coming on, talking sports with you guys, talking Mets, and it's going to be a lot of fun as the season gets underway.
Mage, any last words?
Whaddya Shea?
Whaddya Shea? LFGM.